G'day guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Commander NV400 from OneLeaf. Now you've probably seen on the channel in the last few weeks, I've been throwing up older videos, and they're actually videos that come from Patreon. The reason why I do that is I get incredibly busy, so I have to, essentially to keep the videos rolling every week, I have to show older videos that YouTube hasn't seen before, because I've been so bloody busy. So I am essentially working 2 full-time jobs. I also, like to get out and go hunting. I have other hobbies, including music, that I like to do in my spare time, which I don't really have much of. That's why you would see old videos popping up every now and then. So bear with me, this is a very, very busy year for me. I am moving states, and there's a whole other bunch of shit going on. So that's just, that's where we're at the moment. So bear with me, please, and thank you all for coming along for the journey. So last year, OneLeaf sent me the NV400, which is like the normal day scope with a clip-on night attachment. I tested that. It was okay. It was pretty good for what it is. It's pretty cheap, and it's very, very much the same as other brands. Now, most things that are Chinese made, you'll have one company make it, like the main part, and then they'll sell that to other companies who will then, do it up. Whatever. They do the same thing with machine tools. So you might buy 4 different lathes, and they're all going to have the same bed in them. So the same thing applies to scopes. It's easy to manufacture. They just bang out the baseline, and then the on-selling company puts their own spin on it, whether they change the buttons arrangements or the software or whatever. Anyway, so that one was pretty good. They then reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to check out the NV400, which is their top line night scope, like a dedicated proper night scope? And I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not, send it along. So they did, and I've been testing that since January. I feel like now that I've actually tested it properly, I've been out shooting with it, I've been out hunting with it, I feel like now I can give you an honest bit of feedback as opposed to, oh yeah, here's the bloody scope out of the box, it looks good, you should go and buy it. So I have actually tried it, and it is pretty bloody good. So I've got a list of things I want to cover off on. If you want to look at all the features and what it comes with, I have an unboxing video, which will be linked up the top here somewhere. If you want to go and check that out to see what the scope comes with and the specs and all that sort of crap, this is just going to focus on my thoughts. So we'll start with the actual build quality. It's very well made. It's like it's all metal. So usually you'd think if you're buying something cheap in Chinese, which this is not actually that cheap, but you would assume that it's going to have plastic parts in it. Pretty much everything on it is metal, which is pretty bloody good. The buttons are really, really nice. They're really tactile. They have a really nice click to them, which is particularly nice when you're using a night scope because you're in the dark. So being able to feel and push the buttons and know when it's been pushed is a good feature. So I've used a few different night scopes over the years. And usually the menus are a bit shit and hard to navigate through. Even like the really expensive, or midline expensive, I want to say really expensive, like the $6,000 thermals, I have found have had pretty shitty menus and really hard to navigate. Whereas this one, surprisingly, was actually really, really easy to navigate. Essentially, once you're in the menu, you've got your little dial on the top, and you turn that, it just scrolls up and down, and then you can just literally push the button and you're in that sub menu. It's actually really, really easy to use. Yeah, some menus are not that great. One problem is, though, and the reason I can't show you that is you can't record the menu. So when you're on the recording function, as soon as you go to the menu, it stops recording, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. Not really for you guys, because why the fuck would you want to, have a recording of your menu settings? But for me as a reviewer, that's a bit annoying because then I can't show you what the menu looks like. But, just take it from me, the menu is pretty good. Speaking of recording, you can set the scope between first and second focal plane. However, if you have it set to first focal plane and you record, it will actually only record in second focal plane. So you'll see that as we go through the footage that I've gathered. I did have this in first focal plane mode. However, it was recording in second focal plane. Now, I don't know whether that's a feature of this scope, which I feel like it is, or maybe I didn't set up the menu correctly to have that record in first focal plane. I don't see why you would have to set that separately. I think it's just how the thing works. So it has the fucking one-shot zero. I hate the term one-shot zero because rarely do you get it to zero in one shot. But even if you did, zeroing off one shot doesn't take into effect group theory. So let's say your gun groups arbitrarily, you can see that, there you go, arbitrarily your gun group's that big, and if you shoot one round and that's the edge round that's here, well then your other round that's going to land over here is not going to be on the 0 point. So you want to have the mean point of impact, the center of that circle, coinciding with the point of aim, which is why I think one shot zero is gimmicky and fucking stupid. However, it does have that function. It's not really that function, it's just a fucking zeroing function. You can really tell that it kind of fucking annoys me when people say one shot zero. I managed to get a zero, and I think it was 4 or 5 rounds, and I'll throw the footage up now. First round, after bore sighting the first round, missed the screen, I adjusted to the edge of the screen, fired again, which brought that round on, and then I was able to fairly accurately adjust. It wasn't like bang on with that first adjustment off the first round on the screen. And by screen, I mean target. Sorry about my lingo. But it was relatively easy to zero. So all you need to do is when you go into zero mode, you keep one of the crosses on the aiming mark you had, you move the other cross to the bullet hole, you press save, and it redoes your offset, and you're bloody good to go. I did find with the zero, the point of aim actually shifts very, very slightly in between zooming in and zooming out. And it was very minor, but what I did was I overlaid a few different images that I recorded, and I overlaid them in my video editing software, and you can actually see a very slight variance in the reticle and where it sits between different levels of zoom. It wasn't enough to be concerned about, but it was enough that I noticed it. So the image quality, the day camera, honestly isn't that great, but it's a camera, so it's never going to be as good as optical magnification, right? Because it's a digital camera, you will never have the optical quality of a traditional scope. So for being a camera, it's actually not too bad, but in comparison to an optic, it's not great. So just bear that in mind. You're not going to get true day sight, good clarity through a good piece of glass. It's just not the same bloody thing. So sometimes, even with the little shield thing on the front, which is supposed to cut a bit of the light and help you see a bit better, and adjusting some of the white balance and the contrast and whatever, I still found that in high brightness direct sunlight, particularly on light coloured targets and whatever, it did blow the image out a bit and it was a bit hard to see. In the shadows it wasn't too bad, or when there was cloud cover it wasn't too bad, it's just when it was really bright, which is why they've added that filter thing on the front to cut some of that light transmission through the camera, but it was still a bit poo. The night camera though is actually pretty good. The night that I went, it was like a zero moon night, like there was nothing, like you had no lights on and you couldn't even see the end of the car, so proper dark night, and I was still able to see and shoot foxes through that scope, so that's pretty good.
Hit. Sweet. Get in. Hit. Got him.
One of the reasons I can do that is because it comes with an IR torch. Now this IR torch has a bit of an adjustment. It took me a while to figure this out, but essentially you can finger tighten it and you can actually walk it onto your point of aim, and then there's actually like a locking mechanism where you lock it into position. Now it took me a while to figure it out, and I was, why is this flopping around and having to fuck around with it all the time? Yeah, so after I figured that out, it actually worked really, really well. You can change the beam, so you can actually go really point, or you can make it flood. So what I found was the best option was actually to zoom into the appropriate zoom level I would have for shooting, which would have been, I don't know, times 10 or whatever. I think it goes up to times 16, something like that. And then just move the flood until it fills the whole image. That way you don't have dark spots on the outside, and actually made it really, really easy to see. The battery life in the IR sight is awesome. It has like 3 little lights on it, will tell you what mode you're on. So there's different power levels for that sight. Power levels for the torch. So yeah, overall the IR torch is actually pretty good. I've used other IR torches with other brands, and they're actually pretty crap. This one, I was thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna have to use white light with this scope just to get the review done, but the IR sight, fuck me. But the IR torch was actually really, really good. Battery life, so it has 2 ways of pairing the system. So you have an internal rechargeable battery, and then you have the ability to put other batteries in top, like those little 3-volt vape batteries. And it has 2 different battery covers, so you can use the long ones and the short ones depending on which batteries you have. I think it's like 50mm and 70mm or something like that. And all you do is change the cap. So that's a pretty good function. So whatever batteries you already have in your inventory, you can just use those and you just change the cap. So I thought that was a really good feature. I had this turned on all night. So I think we were hunting for about 6 or 7 hours. And it survived the whole time. I literally left it on. Like obviously the rifle sitting in my lap in the car, right at the crook of the door as we're driving around foxing, and I had it on literally all night. Yeah, so it was about nearly 7 hours. So I thought that was really, really good because I've used, once again, other brands and they've gone dead and I've had to change batteries and whatever. So I think that's attributed to the fact that it has the 2 batteries, like the internal rechargeable and the other one. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Now, this model I have is like the top end model, and it comes with an LRF. Not every version of this you can buy comes with the LRF, from my understanding of it. And the LRF essentially plugs into the side of the scope. There's like a little set of pins that connect together. It works well, it gives you a range. One thing that's kind of annoying is because it's offset, so it's on the left-hand side, you do have a bit of a parallax error where, depending on what range, if you, let's say at 100 meters, which is where I set it up to, if at 100 meters you coincide the reticle for the LRF, which is not the same as your aiming mark, it has a separate reticle in there. If you coincide that with your aiming mark at 100, it'll actually cross over past 100, so you've kind of got to offset it. So if you're aiming at 100 here, and it's that far away from the middle of the scope, then you've got to offset that to the left. Just a point to note. Now, it seems that the way that this gets its range is by firing an IR light. Now, normal lasers don't use IR. The reason why that's bad is if you have an IR light firing, you will actually see that in the II, the image intensifier. So yeah, most other LRFs do not work off IR lasers. This one seems to, and it will actually fire constantly because it constantly updates the range. So you can't just like, I would prefer if it had a button on it and you just go press and it would give you the range. But once you've got it turned on, you've got to get into the menu, you turn the laser on. Once it's on, it's constantly firing the laser to get you the range. Now that's going to drain your battery a lot quicker, but also, so what it's doing is it's strobing the light out there to constantly update the range, and you will see that in the scope, and it's stupidly annoying. So I don't understand why they did IR, and it might be because different countries have different laws on what types of lasers can be used on weapon sights. So potentially they've gone with IR because IR is eye safe. So you know, then they're not going into like class 3 and class 4 lasers. They're keeping with the eye safe lasers. So that is potentially why they've done that. I did find it annoying. I usually just kept it off. I'm using a 22-250, mind you. So pretty much if I can see the fox in the scope, I know I can just aim and hit it because it's shooting very bloody flat, which is the benefit of 22-250. I'm pushing 55 grain Sierra Game Kings at like 3780 or 3800, something like that. So they're going stupid bloody quick. So they're very, very flat, shooting out to about 220 meters or so, which is roughly what I limit myself to when I'm hunting foxes anyway. So the weight of the scope, it is very, very heavy, but that's to be expected. It's a bloody big night scope, right? So you're not really going to put this on your rifle and walk around, which I did do, which I found to be a pain in the ass. Now this is on my big, long 26-inch barrel. It's a 26-inch stainless steel IBI competition straight through barrel. It's in a chassis, it's stupid fucking heavy anyway, and then I put the scope on it, it was ridiculous. I did carry it around a couple of times that night just to get a feel for it, and we were kind of walking around trying to find these foxes, and it was a bloody pain in the ass. That's probably more so the fact that the whole gun all up weighs about, I don't know, 10 or 12 kilos or something retarded. But yeah, just so you know, it is heavy, so if you put on, you're thinking you're going to put on a lightweight rifle, and it's not going to weigh you down, you're very much bloody mistaken. It is very heavy. So my final thoughts on it. Would I buy it? Abso-bloody-lutely. If I'm looking for a night scope that's under 1,000, absolutely I'd buy it again. Now I've tested the ATN X sight before. I did that a couple of years ago, and these are in a very similar price point. And this actually kicks the shit out of the ATN. I really didn't like the ATN. There was just a lot of functions in it that didn't work properly. The menu was really hard to navigate. The image quality was terrible. The battery life was shit. The torch on it was crap. It didn't have an LRF. I feel like now technology is catching up, so we can get better quality stuff for cheaper than what we could do 5 or 6 years ago. So that ATN, I don't know when they came out, but that ATN, I think I reviewed it 3, maybe 4 years ago. I can't remember now. It was a while back. Yeah, so for the same price point now, the technology is so much better that this is a way better option than that. Now, obviously ATN has a good brand name, but I'm not the type of person who's like, oh, but it's blah brand. If you were looking at getting a Commander NV400, I do have a link for you. It's in the description. Now, this is an affiliate link. So, full disclosure, they have obviously sent me this for free. They've given me an affiliate link so that if you buy something, I get a kickback. However, if it was shit, I wouldn't be showing you this video. I've said that to a lot of people when they approach me or I approach them to do a product review. It always has the caveat that if I don't like the product, you don't get the video and I will send you back the product. So I think this is pretty good for the money. Now it sells for like, I'm looking at the website now, it's like $499 US. So let's quickly look at what that is, the exchange rate today. All right, so $499 US is $765.82 as at today, the 24th of March. So yeah, very similar price point to the ATN. I do have a discount code for you, which is 10% off down the bottom. So essentially, you get a discount and the amount of money that you get discounted is what I would earn in commission for you buying it. Just throwing that out there, that's full disclosure. Buy it if you want. If you don't want to, don't bloody buy it. And don't be coming at me saying, trying to sell us shit because I've got to pay the fucking bills, don't I? Because otherwise you don't get videos. So, I hope that explains a bit too if you have been looking at getting a night scope. There's a lot of good stuff coming out of foreign countries now. I feel like a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth when they're like, ooh, Chinese made. It was like 20 years ago when people were like, ooh, Japanese made, and now everyone's like, fuck yeah, Japanese made. So same, but different. There's a lot of good Chinese stuff coming out. There is a lot of crap Chinese stuff coming out, don't get me wrong. So this is what I'm here for, to steer you in the correct direction of what's a good product and what's a bad product. So anyway, that's enough rabbiting on from me. I hope you got something out of that. I will see you next video, and hooroo.